Welcome to the Innovators, the podcast where we talk to the people building the future. In each episode, we sit down with technologists, founders, researchers, and engineers who are doing real, impactful work. They're applying technologies in ways that change how we live, work, and think. Whether it's breakthroughs in AI, climate tech, health systems, or digital infrastructure, this show is about the people turning ambitious ideas into working systems. No hype, just thoughtful conversations with the folks making it happen. Welcome back to the Innovators. I'm John Biggs. This is a podcast about amazing people doing fascinating things. Today I have Yoni Kalin. He's the CEO of Plant Cell Technology. Welcome, Yoni.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so tell us about Plant Cell.
Sure. So at its simplest, Plant Cell Technology is a biotechnology ecosystem. We bridge manufacturing, education, and innovation in plant and animal stem cell science, And we develop and produce the tools and media used for plant and mammalian tissue culture. And what that is essentially the technology behind cloning and growing cells in labs.
Wow. So it's called Plant Cell, so it suggests that these are all plant-based cells, or is it like, I don't know, like animal flesh
question.
as well? Yeah.
So for 30 years, we've been solely operating in the plant cell space.
Mm-hmm.
But recently, due to an acquisition that we had in around April, May time, we acquired a manufacturing facility that enabled us to expand and branch into the mammalian cell culture space.
Mm-hmm.
So we produce medias not only for the plant space, but now we work with human cell culture, animal cell culture, insect cell culture. So the mammalian space kind of covers humans and animals, but the animal cell culture space is a very, very large space dedicated to development of medicines, vaccines, new research. And the beauty of the animal space specifically is by using animal cells, we're actually able to reduce the amount of live animal testing that researchers and institutions are doing. So we're entering that space in now, and we've been a primary core player in the plant cell space specifically, growing plants in test tubes and then growing animal cells in test tubes as well, or petri dishes.
So what's the benefit of in this specific case, what's the benefit of having a generated plant cell when you could just grow the plant, right?
Sure.
Is there something there?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what we're doing with cell culture is we're asexually cloning plants. So instead of using a seed, for example, we're taking the highest performing plants, we're taking a cutting, so usually a node or sometimes the meristem, which is a very, very small part of the plant. It's essentially the newest stem cell from that plant, and we're regrowing that plant. And what that enables us to do is, number one, we're able to grow these plants in sterile conditions, preventing them from exposure to disease and bacteria. Number two, you're getting exact genetic consistency. So if you are a farmer or if you're a large-scale horticulturalist and you have the most beautiful flowers or the highest yielding berry plant, you want to be able to reproduce that. And so the reason when we go to a grocery store, we're able to get a box of blueberries or strawberries or blackberries or bananas, they all taste the same, they all look the same, and they're all roughly the same shape and size. That's because a lot of those are coming from the same mother plant. So they're grown in tissue culture, they're cloned, and so you're getting exact replicas of the plant that you'd expect. Another example is if you go to Trader Joe's or Home Depot and you buy your orchids, right? Every year we can consistently buy white Phalaenopsis orchids. And the reason is because instead of these orchid growers having to actually plant seeds, orchid seeds are very hard to propagate. What they're able to do is actually take clones of their favorite varieties, the most beautiful colors, most beautiful shapes, best smelling orchids, and reproduce them at scale. And so this technology has enabled us to mass produce consistent, healthy and quality plants, both in the food space, in the forestry space, when we talk about reforestation efforts, growing more birch trees, growing more bamboo. And when we talk about the medicinal space, if you're a researcher or a pharmaceutical company, you want to be able to produce the exact same plant so you can extract certain enzymes or secondary metabolites from that plant consistently. So what this does is it enables us to get consistency across a large variety of plant species. And the same can go for the mammalian space, right? If you're running tests for new vaccines or you're trying to understand toxicity with cells, you're able to do that and reproduce consistent results in a controlled environment as opposed to alternatively with whether it's live animal testing or planting seeds. There's just too much genetic variety and there's a lot of nuances that lead to inconsistent data.
So you take an animal stem cell And that animal is basically replicated constantly, and you basically something against it, right?
More or less. So, for example, we have something called CHO cells in the lab. Those are Chinese hamster cells, and those are the same Chinese hamster cells that were originally collected, I think, in the 40s. Right. So this cell line has essentially been propagated, if you will, or multiplied for 80 plus years. It's almost immortal. And those cells are used for a lot of basic testing. But what we do in house is we manufacture all the cell culture media, the food to feed these stem cells. So our bread and butter, and what I like to tell people is we sell picks and shovels to gold miners, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are the Levi's jeans. We are trying to create the best products and the best tools so the gold miners can mine the gold. And I look at the people that are developing these medicines or developing treatments as the gold miners. And we, our job is to make their lives as easy as possible. So high quality manufacturing, all based in the United States, based in Utah, in addition to education and an ecosystem of scientists, researchers, and the next generation of hobbyists and people interested in getting into the space. We connect that and we bridge them and create this ecosystem that pushes the industry forward. And that's something that didn't really exist before.
So there's like you say hobbyists. I don't think there's a hobbyist use for taking like a hamster cell, right?
Correct. So let's get back to the plant side. So
Mm-hmm.
the hobbyist market that we help develop is in the plant cell space. And it primarily exists for two reasons. Number one, before our classes and our content, the only way to get into plant tissue culture was to get a degree at a university, right? That investment is anywhere between $250,000 to $500,000. What we did is started off around 2020 when people were learning how to make bread or doing TikTok videos. We put together a series of YouTube videos teaching people what is plant tissue culture, how do you do plant tissue culture, and how do you set up labs. What we were interested in doing is lowering the barrier to entry for the next generation of scientists by saying, hey, we can actually teach you how to do this, and we can provide you the skills and the knowledge just to expose you to the space. Because for a long time, tissue culture was limited to universities and the highest caliber private corporations with multi-million-dollar labs. What we've done is we've lowered the barrier to entry by democratizing both the education and the intro into tissue culture, and by providing the highest quality products to people looking to enter the space. So what we developed is first a series of education and classes around tissue culture. So we have in-person and online classes where we teach people how to do tissue culture. And our focus and curriculum is all about hands-on learning. So repetitions and using the most optimal approach to operational efficiency, right? Whereas research universities are very much about process and procedure when it comes to research integrity, we're teaching people how to operate at a commercial scale. So if we want to produce 10 million banana plants a year, this is the protocol that you follow, and this is how you do it most efficiently. The second method is actually bringing more people into this industry. So exposing them to what tissue culture is. I mean, before Plant Cell started doing videos, it was very hard to find content, let alone information about plant tissue culture that wasn't based in a science paper. And my understanding is a lot of our generation, my generation, is very much visual learning based. And so what we've done is we've created a wide open, we have almost 800, 900 videos online, all free, series of content to teach people not only what is tissue culture, but how to do it at home. And we provide both the information, the instructions, and the protocols to be successful in that. And so you might ask, why would somebody want to do this? I don't know if you've ever been to a plant shop, but they're selling monsteras for $40, pink princesses for $50. Right? The need is horticulturalists and hobbyists want to be able to clone their own rare plants. So now instead of spending a couple $100s on plants at a plant shop, they can take a cutting from that plant and they can clone it and grow hundreds or even thousands of that same plant, either creating their own businesses or filling their own houses with their desired plants. So I see the plant tissue culture space and the education that we're bringing as a vehicle to bring more people into biotechnology, more people into the STEM field and interested in the space, because at the end of the day, we need more researchers. We need more people that are knowledgeable about cell culture work, and we're going to need to utilize this technology for survival, right? This is how we're going to mass produce foods with climate change. This is how we're going to focus on reforestation efforts around the world. This is how we're going to create better food safety programs within countries that are overly dependent on international supply chains. So the education is paramount for human survival, but also for proliferation of better technology and research in the space. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer.
Yeah, that was. You went all the way from I want to make some pretty flowers to saving the human race, which is pretty cool. All right.
Yeah.
So and what's the do you guys do fungus as well?
We do fungi. Mycology is one and the same in the sense that you're growing mycelium as opposed to plant cells or animal cells. You're growing it in petri dishes to start, and you're using aseptic technique. So you're maintaining the same clean lab protocols and procedures that you would with plant and mammalian cell culture, but with fungi. The good news is with mycology is it's a much simpler formula, right? With plant cell culture, the average media we manufacture is between 25 to 30 raw ingredients. For mycology, there's 2 ingredients. It's agar and honey. So it's much simpler. Maybe sugar, I'm blanking out, but I would say mycology is a simpler entrance into the space, but it's also complementary in what we're doing. A lot of mycologists do use tissue culture as a way of cloning mycelium at scale and growing them in controlled environments. So let's say I wanted to hold 10,000 strains of different fungi or plants, you can do so in a lab, as opposed to if you're a farmer and you want to have 5,000 to 10,000 different genetics, you're going to need a lot of acreage to do that. And we're able to hold about 10x the amount of plants in a lab than you can in a nursery or a farm.
How much automation is there? It seems like one of the ideal use cases would be something like I have my favorite I don't know, spider plant, or I have my favorite tomato. Mm-hmm. I want to make more of these next year. Mm-hmm. Would I be able to just take a cutting, like a sample from the one tomato, and kind of make 10 of them?
Absolutely. Now, the biggest problem or challenge you're going to run into is labor, right? Mm-hmm. As a company, labor costs are relatively high. So what the industry is doing right now is looking towards automation. There's a few companies that are leading this. There's one called RoboCorp. There's one called NXT. So what we've done is we've developed a bioreactor that's fully automated. And what that means is we're growing plant cells, and primarily plant cells in liquid instead of in gel. And research for the last 40, 50 years has indicated that bioreactors are some of the most effective methodology to grow cells at scale. The issue is they're not really commercially viable, right? The current bioreactors on the market cost anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000. Not to mention the setup is very complicated. They get contaminated very easily, and they're difficult to use. And what we've done is we have a patented product called the biocoupler. And the biocoupler looks simple, but it's the most cost-effective and operationally efficient bioreactor on the market with unbelievable results. And from that biocoupler, we built the BioTilt. And I like to look at this product as a razor and a razor blade, right? You're constantly replacing the razor blade, but you're using the same razor. And this methodology allows us to scale the actual products. But what the BioTilt does is it creates an automatic timing and immersion frequency to soak the plant cells, let them dry. Soak the plant cells, let them dry. Think of it as like a thick and spit. And the advantage of this is you're basically, by soaking the plant, you're giving it 100% contact with nutrients, and then you're letting it grow much, much faster than if you're using solid culture, which is gel. You have one contact point for the plant, so only one area in which the plant can uptake nutrients. And we're seeing incredible multiplication rates, sometimes 50 to 25x comparatively to gel culture. And the best part about the bioreactor is it's cheaper. So 1 kilogram of gelling agent, agar or gellan gum, could cost anywhere from $90 to $200. And we're eliminating the need for that altogether. So automation is kind of the next foray that we're looking to dive into in this space, working with some of the larger companies that are using robotics to automate the way that plants are cut and propagated. We're focusing right now on using our bioreactor as a pathway or a catalyst to get people to start investing in, number one, bioreactor technology, but number two, automation. Automation as a whole, I think, is where this industry is going, but science is slow to adopt. And the tissue culture space, the average tissue culture media hasn't evolved for 60 years. So to think that automation is going to somehow overtake this whole industry in the next 5 to 10 it's very realistic, but we're doing our best to disrupt that and to make it go faster. Because at the end of the day, obviously, we want to keep people's jobs. We want to make sure that people are employed and skilled, and we want to be able to mass produce at a larger scale than we've done so far. And robotics and automation is that next level. What we're focused on primarily is using that bioreactor, automating it, and incorporating AI sensors and technology to better calibrate how we run trials, how we collect data, and how we optimize our lab flow for everyday scientists.
Is this the future of agriculture, or are we still going to be putting seeds in the ground and feeding pigs at the trough?
This is the now of agriculture. We're already doing it. I think we're not necessarily going to replace seeds altogether, but the vision that I have is eventually farmers will have access to tissue culture labs. Each farmer will have their own genetic breeding program, their own collection of genetics that enables them to have their own IP and support their own businesses. And when it comes to climate change, it's becoming harder and harder to farm. We're running out of space to farm. What we can do with tissue culture is vertically integrate and build up. So if you think about urban farming, first level tissue culture, next level nursery, top level harvesting. So we're able to utilize this technology to mass produce millions and millions of plants and then harvest those plants indoors. Now, I'm not trying to replace farming. I'm trying to give farmers another tool to support their businesses. Right now, the seed industry is very restrictive, and farmers are limited to purchasing sterile seeds. So they have to plant it one season and it dies the next, and there's no way of reproducing. So they have to keep buying seeds. It creates dependencies. It leads to subsidies that keep them in the hole. And my goal, hopefully, with this technology is to show farmers they can develop their own breeding programs, protect their own genetics, and scale their own farms without relying on third parties. So I think this is the now of agriculture, and this is also the future of how we grow. And it's just another tool. It's another way that we can utilize agriculture efficiently and locally to provide better food access and better distribution is the way that I see it playing out in the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, this is wild. What's the website? Where should people go to buy their cultures?
Yeah, so
their media.
So we sell the media. Cultures, there are a ton of websites, but the website is plantcelltechnology.com. And on our website, there's resources for education specifically. So there's access to master classes, both online and in person. We have over 800 videos that are for free. So you can learn about tissue culture, how to get started, the basic of plant physiology. We try to look at this as an alternative to university. And if you want to buy cell culture media or the lab equipment that you need to get started, you can also get that on our website.
Right. And you guys,
if you're interested.
And you've been at this since 1993, so this wasn't your start. This is
correct.
Somebody in the family.
It was started by my father. I took over in 2017, 2018. We were a one product company operating out of a small office in Washington, D.C. With little to no manufacturing capabilities and one product. And since now we've scaled to over 500 products. We have a 16,000 square foot factory and manufacturing facility in Utah. And we have a broad spectrum of services from consulting and lab optimization to classes and educational curriculum around the cell culture space. So we've come a long way, and I'm hoping the growth only continues to scale from here.
I like how the first product was the pet plant, which was just like a plant in a jar, basically.
Yep. It was essentially around the time of the pet rock, right? That was a big craze of.
Well, pet rock was in the 60s, so this is 1993. So I don't think
we were a follow up to the pet rock.
Yeah, you're a follow up to the pet rock.
And the whole idea was, hey, anybody can learn about tissue culture. You plant a corn seed in the media, you watch it grow, and it's fun for kids. It's fun for everyone. But we've developed far and away from being a toy.
Yeah, I think you're past the pet.
We are past the pet plan, although we have talked about bringing it back as a one-time reintroduction into the space, because people love retro toys.
You should make a tree that grows as like I don't know, mammalian flesh or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. I don't know if you guys have that technology yet.
I mean, we're working on it.
Yeah.
The future is growing human cells and organs, right? If you don't need to rely on somebody for a liver transplant, we can grow it for you. That's the goal.
A tree that grows meatballs. Okay, so that way I think we've got it. That's your next product. Thank you, Yoni. This is fascinating. This was actually really cool.
Much. I appreciate your time.
All right. This has been the Innovators. I'm John Biggs. We'll see you next episode.
Thank you.